as a chief justice there and they bet me you as a Supreme Court judge. They be as a Supreme Court judges ye be da e wo Ghana hard na presidents ben and another ho. Ivan my uncle ebro
Alaska the dika ma cha da mencha watie for na men kasa Alaska the course you na yes Ghana ni bia will right say at any point in time ade bi nkoye na we are dissatisfied and intina ye nyina ya fight for democracy your democratic institutions menu nya asema men twese kan these institutions are supposed to be there to address and I say on adjudicate and I say on jina ni tumi so no hwehwe sansem no mfa de ese babi ese de to yemfa nto what ha woni ahotofo ya adwuma yi ochina oba beduru ho say na say daddy boss ko jina gate no ka cho Alaska me ma wunguram na ya pamo na amount any reasons bia na
organ so we shipa on na me kokot
on kofie nkofa se kan se woni ne ba be ko na mom
Bosco meet me in court
bia na nkrata woni ne wo sinsan ya kira se bia in the next way no and so bi ono so ni reasons owo court no ba hwehwem na ode de ese ye de to ato Alaska but ekoduru a point bi na nipa na ye nyina ye getum se onimemra odi mra owe mra odamram because to become a chief justice it means that wudi mra wo we mra wo ne mra na da wo de mra na yesunie unim wo ye tibrekese wa bin wom. And whenever you are making legal argument we assume say something that is crafted out of you being witty means very smart and intelligent and then now wo can precise and a very concise footholding in law. And to the very moment I oba kasano a man for be press e ba be sua bibia free ho. But I don't know growing up no timi hu nipa bi wo TV so kasa wo de oba jai de wo ye bia ba betie no because you know say the person is coming to sell knowledge.
But
ye beduru a point bi na nipa na wo free say nipa we aduru bere sei o kasa ye se ye tie akonwa betena ase na ye betie no na fensam na o ka ne ye nsam ase se bia kora ketewa bi a ne buafu na or tutumana amanfo a wabambebu. And that's exactly the playbook the current chief justice Ekura Ordenam.
Oh really?
Oh yes, Alaska. It's very frustrating some of the arguments and I make it and rana many your program ewo ne ho and I make a say whoever becomes the next chief justice no obi atoko no tena na sem so tena so di ye bia no should petition the new chief justice say asem no mudi and they should review all the cases. Oh yes.
Ni poster
nema wa advertising no wa demonstrate incompetence na the understanding of the law no me say Ghana your constitution no ebi or no kura Chinese version and all kind free India minim
Chinese version
yes and obesesa from chin to English and now we abeti ase na bia na west na bia sesa wo ebi no kura Chinese version of our constitution or no ready and you okanya understanding is different from the obiati ase Alaska because anyasa some of the arguments she's making they are funny, they are laughable, they are right. Just I don't even mean who the appropriate word I may describe it. For instance, and rather make us say constitution say ye chief justice na kwana e faso yi no ni nyina nam say yem pese ye begu ekuo no animase wa bontinti no yenye in camera.
That's right. And such a babontin. And
we nyase obi na kwatena ase Supreme Court ruling no. Aya Ghana amamra constitution 1992 no ehiem aya clause ewom. Enyase interpretation no aya clause explicit aya tworo.
I want to be your hwe.
Court be anu akwe court enhemra. The only way to change that thing is to do a constitutional review. Na committee na proposing they go through process of constitutional amendment na ya amend parliament na Ghana for na be yes adwuma no. And there are some portion kra nya parliament a true referendum and ye betimi aye
yes or no
nti nipa no no nim mmara call Supreme Court ko ka kire omo say media no munyi no TV so when she knows or a chief justice onim say it can never be possible and so already Amadu Tanko JS in the ruling na oka wom say ono kra e no nwanwa say chief justice e be make that request onim say Supreme Court need to me to do that ana enti say nipa we atena wasem so adipan a you should be worried
and the number bre at the fiasia I was say on my bush of one petition new chief justice
my culture say institution back one on ya or Kenya are even or right to life or right to live. I was asking with some the judge and the Supreme Court near court system. It is such an institution, you know, you need to espouse integrity, competence at the highest level. But if you have your Chief Justice because today you're trying to formality or making argument like a baby, you should be worried. Sasa dream we are not the court no DD assembly now be answer crime ben so na kufu ado fast who na okofa no so may Chief Justice when the senior etetete on uja omu nyina ho kofa no bae. Her understanding of the law is very problematic. Again, the fresh argument are all making and then they say ya yina di as Chief Justice na ye nyina di as a high court judge. Alaska we say asem no ba ya professor bi ko kan sa asem no tuma me ka kire o say your friend say it is the most weakest and I say argument so anybody far. Even obia onim ba bia law school dying crazy should not be making that argument. Because you see very often ade amam for you say Kroma so unyan call law school na man for shade na say and that say use legal jargons just to throw you off.
That's right.
Sa no ye nua na musu mass na sa no mote I catch say Kroma whenever a conversation is riddled with mathematical proficiency ye keka percentage na say for obi a shy away.
That's right.
Enya me area. But ebia unya abotana wura ma be nsam kwasasam na mo keka. Fine X. So unya kokodro na wura sa mathematical conversation or more have na ebia kra wo benya better understanding. Let me tell you, law your friend be reasoning. Alaska oko law ma your friend be your friend saying jurisprudence and the theory, the philosophy and the reasoning behind law. So I know it goes beyond the test. I will book.
Okay.
Mrano, the purpose, why, the how, the reasoning behind it. So whenever you obi kasan they keep your friend saying quoting constitutional phrases that is not the law. The law, the actual law is the reasoning behind the law. Anything I walk court, na san kamera na ho no. Ofuma chapter we say yam boat wonku ehun hia se kwa kodi asem. Meboa.
That's right.
Because the law they say obokro no yam fa nko prison. I don't think say do kokko.
So I caught the reason
exactly
behind
that is why
that particular clause.
That is where the jurisprudence comes in. The reasoning behind it. And maybe say law any reasoning the na anyini. Law any reasoning the na anyini. Reasoning. Because emranya mae no na yenim say metia wunya mehwe na mebɔ wasoma eti amra and I'm not supposed to do that. Emra bia ni ho a eche me anase yamfa say emra ni ho. The reasoning will tell you say wunya nya mehwe na mebɔ wasoma. I'm not supposed to do that. And na ebia also ti hoyi why me say obi a nhumi nkwa na me hu ye. And na me de abufu abɛbɔ wasom. Say amanfo who reason the what they say na they will justify why men so me bɔbɔ wasom.
Exactly.
So law was crafted out of reasoning. And reasoning and law na di reasoning by
my reasoning
na di law by
based upon reasoning you craft
law out of it. So reasoning is a larger spectrum more than law. And that is why you bet you have one constitutional test. Yes, best subject to multiple interpretations.
That's right.
Because we want to, because the whole essence of law is to put society together. To your friends say, your integration, by your intact, your coercion, and anything that is seeking to disintegrate society, we clip it with interpretation.
That's right.
That is the reasoning behind the law. Good. It is the Chief Justice. I'll say yina di as Chief Justice. Now yina di as your father saying Supreme Court judge. Alaska, the first qualification to become a Chief Justice.
Also a Supreme Court judge.
Good.
I told me law school now.
And then you call law school. The primary way yes a wateni and son of a Chief Justice. You must first be
a Supreme Court judge.
Good. So when you become a Supreme Court judge, when you become a Chief Justice, a extra administrative role and the amount. So more or less like she is the CEO of the judiciary.
That's right. So are you a Supreme Court judge and you are elevating to
good. Just like a medical doctor, our Sunyan Teaching Hospital, you are elevating the CEO of the hospital.
That's
you
right.
are a doctor and you are because maybe the offense said the Teaching Hospital Act in which say man doctors and the mayor CEO. So you are a doctor and you've been promoted to become a CEO. The same way Chief Justice, because so obey Chief Justice now you are the friend S officio. S officio say what rises to position now when by the virtue say now our position be that. And that position no na de wa ba beduru ba bia wa ba beduru o grandin e wo ho. So you perform the role simultaneously.
Okay,
because without Chief Justice, without Supreme Court judge, you can never become a Chief Justice. So two role that is being exercised in simultaneously at a time. Good. You making that point away. Again, so okay, judiciary now. If there is one institution here uttermost of credibility, attitude, best. Can never be challenged anywhere there.
The Supreme Court.
Good. And so what kind of judiciary, no, or more regulations for espouse on integrity, attitude, and competence on your part. So Alaska, let's assume without admitting, say, in some petitioner the come Chief Justice, no. Yes, we a constitutional body said that be mame. Baby ababeduri, what done subamoni what does subamoni di? Because constitution is on the ground of misbehavior, incompetence, or infirmity, both body and mind.
That's right.
Misbehavior, just say what does subamoni di? Which has to do with what? Attitude. 2.3. And it is on that basis, and I hear Pamo from Supreme Court. So what does subamoni di? Now, so won't mean your administrator of the judiciary, won't mean your CEO. And as a administrative head of the judiciary with subamone, can you be a judge of the highest court of the land with that same subamone?
No.
Come on, and I'm saying reasoning came before law. 2.3. And the what is a man for a TV so kotu and constitutional verses forget them. People are not thinking. That is why I wanted to use common sense to situate this so that you understand. Because a juma baako ye hear the uttermost of integrity. Nipa desani enya o ho asem yes ye nyina nipa de, but you need to advertise, leave competence in that kind of way, no. In the Alaska yakọ Sunyani teaching ana yakọ teaching hospital bi wo esirem ba bi anasa bi anasa akra ha ba bi kolebu yakọ ye no na CEO ni butu oba so on office or for so na tete ntade nyina na eda ya che no wada subamboni edi ye ko hwe me nyina wi ne se CEO we ese ye pam no ye nya ne CEO biem o se ma pam me de am ye doctor nti me ko ward akọ he the question is wo ko ward na akọ hwe hwan ko nipa na wo ko hwe o no e ma wom wo betimi asan akoto another mo na
I common sense. That's right.
Because nipa na wo fom no nti na ye yi wa firi ba bia wo ni nipa di djuma. So get this point clear. Ofum nipa. That is why ye wa free baby a wo serve nipa in that capacity. Entino untumi nka say ye madi as a headmaster entino me ba be teacher.
Because when anya demotion
dabi
when anya demotion
outright dismissal.
That's right.
Why yes subamone what that subamone. So subamone in any organization we don't tolerate it. Oti hay otena ye be to studio na wo to obi mo na.
Emaso.
Or asem kind of maker. It's not because adwuma na wo ye no wunnim ye o. But enam sa suban na wada da dinti all the experience awo radio mu na atena se ma hwan obi anka biem. Cause suban na wada na di no I rubbish everything.
Assume you a substantive minister, you made it because deputy.
You can't do that. And there are people who make a very funny argument about saying MPR. Or your minister, your minister, na friends. I didn't know they call MP. That is a joke of an argument. Oh yes, I'm for making that cheap argument.
MP unkro for na to about the amount. And a wababa ye MP.
Yes.
And when the officer
extra rule
the amount. I know you'll be now appointed.
Yeah, there are two distinct rules.
No, Tio, I know you'll be now appointed. It is a me last before at Obama me say MP. And now, omudimi akọ parliament. And now Mahama say, "Oh, making me minister." And now watching the minister. Last before, can't just pay me as MP.
And I cannot call paper no. ye pamono as a deputy minister.
Ye pamono as a deputy, but no ye MP.
Ye twen ye duru abato no ono ani nkrofo nya kwanya mo ye ne dai.
Omo tutia no.
Nje se paper no we no hefa.
Oh fear.
The political career na we ya no. Sana ye no.
A nice example na man.
Good. So Alaska, that is and some Torkonoo na ma oga ni nyina eye nsem hunu. Yes, we can respect her or achieve. That is why I say I am worried because the legal thinking is very weird, and you're very archaic, very primitive, and I'm still wondering. Nipa, I am worried, and I'm challenging the state to say, "Obia mami we yatna na semsu di bia should go back to the court." Now, yeah, open because we're demonstrating how incompetent she is.
Way.
And a yedi asem. And a yedi election petition. You when you did in some Okroma say. And Alaska, I say, President Mahama, ni new relief no their account. I say President Mahama, a new whole coin say. Your friend is saying, committee na or set it up. Ma, yetra na semsono. A more like a jurisdiction, and it was not properly constituted. When you look around, you look around that. Yes, obi beti na say demulivo de MPP aban also fire o ntia ba na say ne be kwakọ committee ho we on it we wa asemo and e said that is a moral argument we can have, but constitutionally and legally the president has the power to go through the constitution and say for 2 Supreme Court judges. Whoever he appoint, that is his business.
And the constitution qualification is 2 Supreme Court judges.
So whoever the president appoint is none of your business. Yeah, the president can be biased and appoint people he thinks but that has no basis in law. To raise a red flag, say many way was na we do be a 17 no emrabe na ya trose Alaska betremo ni na medina sem as a judge na me dimawa. I create a certain fraternal alliance with you, and you know, me our side, and any other issue that come means we met them. I'm because you sit at the court, you dispense justice, you don't create alliances and fraternity.
Kaya, the same Torkonoo. I think one of Nkrofia no do masem. Sakoko man ya opuni.
Yes.
Once opuni rezi ne legal when rezi issue say one of the justices was a parliamentary candidate of the MPP. Yes. Entino anka on recusal no Obabeka say e wo ho ne anka politics.
Sorry no dey no. I'm sorry. Yes. Good. Your friend saying on we are Speaker of Parliament. Yes. Sorry no dey no. So this is a woman and Niema what done demonstrated clear biases in her era. And if there's ever been a chief justice obeji akonwa no de be gu nanim ase demonstrate to people ne partisan biases this woman. The oil no, she's just advertising herself. And me, it's a clear embarrassment. She's not hidden to wise counsel. Makache says we see musuo kwan so a wona se haha ukowu a obi police ni betimi stop you say park na ye message wo de ahohara betu car na akọ. Because nothing will stop wona se haha obi stop a wuntie o ma me betimi afro kwaku dan wani bro bra ba say unko wu ya enti wani so enti ono wa sha se egu nanim ase obi akanya nsesam no ntie enti on to so be gu nanim ase awie no nothing will stop her enti basis ben no ogina so aka say that particular panel was not properly constituted in line with the article 146. Which article? And again they are making some funny arguments say Ezenka president neka say you were as chief justice na mom not as a and say no you can as a Supreme Court judge no right. Constitution nim very well say that role no a dual role.
That's right.
And one because you cannot be a chief justice without being a Supreme Court judge in you when role now who play no has to do with attitude. You've been flagged as an incompetent person. Alaska, just common sense. Chief justice you flagging say is a army. Now could this be in Semunu you were dear Yankase your fence a sack soldier. Your frau the disgraced officer.
Yeah, that's right.
Disgraced. Because you were the and the chief justice today has become a disgraced Chief Justice. Alaska. Ne emblem or the name on Namasa tag in a bono. This is the disgrace Chief Justice. Ya pamna yinadi because of Koda Suba money edi. The Alaska yabada sorry and they say or take Supreme Court ADSM. Now o couldn't pass a man so could him wasem. Who will have trust and confidence to go and sit before a disgraced person? Somebody what demonstrates or you're incompetent. I'm a constitutional body. I find you guilty. Why not quarter and the dinner sem?
No, no quarter or presiding over no also on the court in Indy.
And I'm say, Ogun and Nimase, Ebia, Obitu Nifuan Kebebuano, Tie. Assembly or the court and no, or Kofale no High Court. Assembly, seeking constitutional interpretation. High Court any jurisdiction to hear anything concerning interpretation of it. Because Nimsa Supreme Court, a man for more honor or in the side. And to the side, they call High Court any whole kind to our Metias Assembly are okay. Because a constitutional interpretation. High Court and church constitution. It is only the Supreme Court that is seated with authority.
That's right.
So, some you know, my country and say, just watch out. Either the High Court, Abba not wogu, and now say, refer to Supreme Court.
I'm a catcher, someone need jurisdiction.
Exactly. So, why would the Chief Justice only Mrawa school we are some of these basic errors?
And Amma won't somehow say your G certificate now. Na ya ni nam ho nyina ya ju certificate na na just the aka no and
I don't believe in certificate. Yes. I believe in Alaska tiwe obiena no okasa metimi testify say this guy is intelligent. You don't need to go home and bring a certificate. No. I am not a certificate person. Intelligence must be demonstrated wherever, whenever, whatever. Baby I will be whenever you get opportunity. Abrantie we obedi Germany for wu bebrebe on fa na Adolf Hitler so wan. Some catch us on Germany of Austria so genia no or join in the first world or kun we ohu say hyperinflation atete o man no. Then na or spy up for the German government at the time no Mosman say nkrofo no o mo pese o mo yeku nti yasoma nko na kwateta o mo na be report man. Uja for quarter oti ensem na o mo kana na no our interest wo.
No say mo there.
They say no I'm report back to government BM. Owura man okwaje mic na okakasaye obie na no so okasaye pe no mu se bibi wo mu wan kofa certificate amachire o.
That's right.
So sa certificate te no yes very important by obabi e de kire but when it come to demonstration of knowledge intelligence na se for no ma manfo ni hu adanse abra wa bie wa no na wo kasa yan kofia ena me masters in this ena me doctor we ena na kire say without it you have nothing to show. That is why the last time I catch us when new things come people are there nipa mo akoma dia kire bebreye nipa omo so low self esteem.
Exactly.
Because office on one kasa na ma onye enough nti je so onya iPhone 15 and 16 kura na o de kire answer a man for who say won so wo ho
add value
add value because on one kasa he doesn't see any value but if you have absolute confidence in your certain no kama and yeah anything add anything value to you but you are using it because you need it oga kotoka kuntan baby and the purchase ho no si free because on one kasa no doesn't see value in herself unless a man for ba attach na ba link to bibi sa na certificate dey na akwakoye enti ma me no me say asem bia Chief Justice atena so wadi bia Alaska ye open up because nema oye gusu gunani masia demonstrate say emrana na meka na bia Ghana constitution no or not Chinese version or kind and our certain twisted understanding say obi nsu na etu nufo na so obi na etu fo Alaska obi a wosua de aduru sa mere we e de na ba ma ho kwan ma obi ayusu ensem na wadi kan dia court no okwa Supreme Court boni nyina tugu so obaka ya akọ de ko fa odo so nya 5-0 no bi o de ko High Court mo botugu ye de o de ko ECOWAS court minim de abesi e
no so ya bo egu
yo enti enne o so okọ High Court ensem no ni nyina so maame jetum se wabo brabone tumi na obenya ye no wan fam wo nipa wo de tena nipa so Supreme Court bench na wote no nipa na wote ho no wo ni omu relationship say na na siti.
That's right.
Because why we Chief Justice obenya nipa omu wo show omu ase a nkasa be wo impact positive omu ankra be di adanse ti awo.
That is it.
That tells you the kind of leader you are. It means judiciary now will pray about they don't want you. I keep telling people say never be comfortable at a place you are not needed. me one friend baby opa ye me den come.
It's true.
Even TV program crowd friend say oh Ivan next week your program ade be chena one friend ya member 92.3 ade be chena one kai me because anything can change ebi a wa change your plan na me sorry mfiri me fia hu ade ma ba say me okay say Friday I don't do that. Wherever I go no I make sure say I am needed. That is why I'm coming. What frame into na member. That was why the last time Kwame Sefa kan na your friend saying Sami Jam issue no the year no. Sada na am say Sami the chair no. Because me ubisa am say question na nka ye hu bedware ye ho. Ko ubisa Sami Jam bisa wo pede wo me studio. Na bisa say o studio say nya choba na obi atwam awura ho.
That's right.
Choba na utwam awura ho. But studio yam frɛ wa wo ma. So for Sami Jam fit to go there so obi na frɛ no. Unless I can't change so studio it's a trouble they would do am fro bia and abiaba udru ha wura o sika na akonom
e no be bisa so peden
ndu bisa se ma ba ha no bisa me peden ya nka ba gibi o
me dey bisa
o ba gibi
that's how me no one anti
so you don't ask the person of peden wa ha you ask the invitee no so omra ho what are seven American because we studio no nya choba obi a sorry ya no akowuram
right
you invite people and so no ma ba what I say so I think say Torkonoo there ogusu ogunanim ase nyame adom obekọ soso ogunanim ase just to affirm and say man na ye mubunum ya kan in the past and say your judiciary no omama na is so dirty na no na make say the new chief justice obeba no you make sure say obe go down to your lower court Alaska and some form di no sa magistrate lower court no what's some nubia or read about and sometimes
that's right
so what chance on some of the rulings now for paper be now kanya or read about hope. So I am urging the president say on tasking whoever becomes
the chief justice
to go down.
Just a resetting and for the
yes, it's not just about the top here. Because a man for who needed justice at the villages or munim kokonem poncheno, they are suffering.
Oh,
and we need to sanitize. So now no make joy pram na make say the removal of the chief justice should be the beginning. A man for say me say Mahama Pamim among for Dabi. Me say sanitizing should include the lower court.
That's
because
right.
I know the sentencing regime no are very problematic and we need to look at it. Every neighbor man now Attorney General they plea bargain in Ghana for Buafui.
That's right.
Because this is not what we need time. We need to create a system a best scare man for who say Ghana mine who may your mind for who need. And that is what we need to do. So it is never about the chief justice. But last time we see, mama no yeah some miscalculation be and na pass na oh yeah the oh yeah. Do you know why? Abraham Pamo no our call no. Na in her twisted head no, she thought to say Ghana for be TSC abontai demonstration because you pam chief justice.
That's
people
right.
were rather celebrating on social media. People were entering MPP boy we can say onim say John Mahama ye Ghana for duro.
That's right.
Say na say omo pam chief justice or expect so be hu anger or Ghana. No, obian hu anebubefu because abrabo no mo born kroma na ye wiram fi ye. Afenyo market ne speaker nya asem ade cheye na wa set date LGBT case besi na wa hu date ya de mai
tie or the asem no call 12 p.m. about 2 p.m. no to me a panel.
Yes. And you see the biases were quite obvious and she never thought that MPP was going to lose power, so she had to do that to safeguard her position. Because the biases were quite, because common sense enough to tell you say common sense, and somebody should have told her don't believe I can say me. We treating the papa and the panel was not properly constituted. Then are the no. Or they are obedience. You don't believe crowd the court.
That's right.
A civil society organization that they call court. What's an answer? My papa no call retirement and say we do ruling, but no, or say the ruling man. No. Now free some kwana nim nyansa. Now when the Supreme Court na disansem hunu wen some fool am Ghana for buofu. Am a Supreme Court na kwada atachem Ghana for suan ko vote for change. So and that change is starting from you are out there talking nonsense. No. I think say ebiwa on miscalculate your backfire asem na kwakoda because na say galam say na manfo eka. So otina say na hu say na me hu hia na say na me mfa another one kotum. Edi ebe activate certain conversation. So that's the reason why I'm not here. I can't say. So on no there, the essence and the relevance. She belongs to the past or a history. I'm just hoping, sir, President Mahama will find a very more competent person. And me, if I'm to advocate here, There was this gentleman called your friend saying Amadou Tanko JSC.
Fantastic.
I think the entire minimum I have never met him, but
what kind of rulings?
I read the ruling and I think that I see myself in him.
And
I think that if possible now he can become the next Chief Justice, I think he can do a lot to sanitize the judiciary.
But I say that was Ivan Che Innocent. But me try me was be America chiro.
Enfiti aseno na samno wo ho na samno ni onyankopon na wo ho na samno